Hey everyone, welcome back to the Law of Attraction Tribe podcast. So today I thought I would do a solo episode and just catch up with you guys. I have been doing so many amazing interviews. Like it's been crazy. I feel like my podcast has reached this tipping point where I've been getting contacted by so many incredible guests, best-selling authors, CEOs, like all kinds of people. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a super busy summer because I've just been recording all these interviews. And I just thought, man, I need to do a solo episode. I just want to catch up with everybody and kind of share what's going on, what's happened over the summer, where I'm headed, and like what all the new fun stuff is. So, a while back, I had done an episode around just where I was at in terms of like mental health and trying to really get focused and clear. And I want to just go back and talk about that for a second because the number one thing that I hear when I'm talking with you guys is people feel overwhelmed. And it's usually women, it's usually moms like me that just feel overwhelmed because you're working, you're taking care of the kids, you're responsible for pretty much everything going on in your life. And then adding, starting a business or a podcast on top of that is very overwhelming and can feel like very complicated. And I, if you haven't noticed, am big on just simplifying things, just getting back to the basics. And so I decided, I needed to kind of do that with my own business because I'm very creative. I love creating new things, new courses, new workshops, all those things. But what I was finding was a lot of people like weren't even aware. Like a lot of people didn't even know that I had a podcast course or a course that helps you set up a funnel in your business to automate your business and create freedom in your business and kind of like get your business going. It's kind of like a starting point for entrepreneurs, or for people that have a business and just have seen like no traction. And I think the reason for that is because I'm just always creating things, but not really talking about them enough because I have so many freaking things going on. So I really decided to simplify um, my whole business. And I took Digital CEO, which is my app course, and I just combined everything, like all of my business courses, all of my business workshops, master classes, bonus classes, like all of that. And I put it into one program called Digital CEO Academy. And it just feels so much better. I feel like I can really like talk about it more and just stay more focused on it. And I feel like it's also more clear for you guys because I've had people reach out and it's like, well, I want to start a podcast, but I also want to do an app. I don't know which I should do first. But then, what about like an online course? When do I start with ads? And literally it's all in one place now. And so um it's available as we speak. That's kind of what I worked on getting done over the last couple of months. So you can go to the lawofattractiontribe.com/digital CEO and check it out. And it's just now the Digital CEO Academy. And it's for entrepreneurs or people that are wanting to start a business. You're wanting to start a podcast. You're wanting to figure out like your purpose and your passion and how you can monetize that. Digital CEO, it has it all. It has it all from beginner to advanced. Even if you're already running a business, this is going to help immensely. It's going to help you automate it. It's going to help you build more freedom in your life. It's going to help you use all of the latest technology, which is, I'm obsessed right now, like with AI and with all the technology available. So anything I add to the Digital CEO Academy as it comes out, which I'm always adding stuff, you will get access to and you won't have to pay anything else. So like you can sign up now for the lowest price. And then if I add more courses and more things in the future, like you're good to go. Um, so yeah, so that's a big thing that I've been working on and it just feels like a huge weight lifted off my shoulder. And again, like this is why I think it's really important when you're feeling overwhelmed to just pick one thing. Just pick like one product one offer, one platform, and go all in on it because we tend to try to multitask and do everything at once, and it leads to nothing getting done 100% and just this feeling of like chaos in our mind. So, really stick with that, focusing on one thing and just see how it works out for you because I feel like I'm so much more prepared to take on the rest of the year now. So, today's podcast, like, I really just want to get into being a mom and running a business. And when I say being a mom, I'm like in it right now. Okay. I am a stay-at-home mom. I've been a stay-at-home mom for the past few years. I have a 3 and 4-year-old and a 15-year-old. And when I started my business, it really started like while I was still in my corporate job in the sense that like I started dabbling with Instagram and building a following. Um, and I think I self-published like a workbook, but it really didn't kick off full force until I had my second child, and that's when COVID hit. So like 20 I had her in September of 2019, and then like I went on maternity leave, and my whole goal was like I am going to leave on maternity leave and not come back. And when I say goal, like it wasn't an option. Like I had made the decision the moment I found out I was pregnant. I made the decision that I would go on maternity leave and not go back. And getting pregnant was like a crazy miracle because my oldest I had had 10 years prior and just thought like, okay, like it's just not going to happen. I'm not going to have any more kids. Um, and I'd asked the universe for a sign because I was having panic attacks in my day job. I was miserable. And I was asking the universe, like, look, I can't just leave a 6-figure salary and all of the benefits. And I had a company car. And I mean, it was a really good job. I can't just walk away from that. Like, I have to have a sign that is so in my face that I absolutely have the confidence to leave. And literally, I like ask this, I ask it out loud. Like, I was literally having a conversation with myself, but like to the universe. And I end up getting pregnant. And the moment I found out, I had this like deep inner knowing that like this was my sign and I made the decision. So I wanted to start with that because with manifesting anything, I see the biggest mistake that I see is when people ask for something, they're not really asking. Like they're not deciding they want it. They're like kind of dipping their toe, but they're not jumping full in. And what I mean by that is like, let's say I would have said, I would love to leave my day job. It really would be nice to start a business. It really would be cool if I could leave on maternity leave and not come back versus I'm leaving and I'm not coming back. There's no other plan B, no option. That's the difference. Like you make a decision and you don't waver on it. And when you do that, it manifests. Like the universe will move mountains to make it happen. And it's happened over and over and over and over again in my life, in my business. And that's really the point that I want to touch on is just freaking make up your mind. And if you're like me and you're in your day job and you're like, I know I want to leave, but I can't walk away from this. And I couldn't. Okay. Like I had a mortgage to pay, I had car payments. It wasn't like I had all this money sitting in the bank. I had to make up 6 figures. That is what I told myself. I was like, I know something will happen where I will make up my income. And I just held the faith and it did. It did. And so the first step was while I was in the hospital after having my second child, I'm sitting there and it was like my parents, everybody was like on me about this. They were like, you need to have a plan. Like you don't have a plan set up. Just saying that you're not going back after maternity leave is irresponsible. Like you have to have something lined up. And have you thought about looking for another job? And I was like, no, no, absolutely not. I'm going to stay home and I'm going to raise her. And I just couldn't explain it to anyone, but I knew things would work out. And so I was in the hospital bed and I got an email from an acquaintance that said, hey, I am ready to go all in on my business. I'm ready to hire somebody to take care of my social media and my marketing. And I like called her up and I was like, "Hey, I just had a baby. But if you will let me do things my way, meaning I'm not tracking my hours, I'm not guaranteeing that I'm going to work 9 to 5. I'm just going to get you results. If you're cool with that, then I'm on board." And she was like, "Absolutely. Like, I don't care when you work. If it gets done, then that's all I care about." And so that turned into kind of a crazy experience, but it taught me a lot. And I learned a lot of tech stuff, a lot of marketing stuff. I learned how to run a business and I learned how to create an app and a podcast. Um, and I just built up a lot of confidence in my abilities throughout that. And so, I was in doing all of that and I kept telling this woman like you need to start a podcast. Everyone's doing podcasts cuz then like COVID hit, right? And it's 2020 and everybody's doing podcasts. And there was so much pushback. It's like, "Yeah, we will. We have to wait for like the right time and we have to wait for this and wait for that." And it was constantly like everything was being pushed off for a later date. And that is another thing that I want to point out. There's always going to be an excuse, and there is never a perfect time. The perfect time to get started is right now. Okay. So if you say, like, "Oh, I'm going to do it when the kids go back to school, I'm going to do it when I have more money in the bank, I'm going to do it when," you're never going to do it. Okay. You're lying to yourself and you're making up excuses. And there's always going to be an excuse because guess what? When your kids go back to school, there will be another excuse coming up. I promise you. So you just have to like do it. You just have to take action. And when you decide you're going to do something and you don't give yourself any other possibility, it takes away all the excuses. So I was getting so fed up with this business I was working for, like putting things off and not starting a podcast, not getting the app completed, that I just did it myself. I was like, "All right, well, if you're not going to take my ideas and implement them, then I'm going to use them for my business." And I started my podcast. I think it was March of 2020. And um, I like, I just went with it. Like, I started recording my first episode with my baby in a bouncy seat sitting right next to me. Like that is how it started. I was still breastfeeding. I had my oldest was homeschooled because it was COVID and like it was probably the most inopportune time, but I also had this like deep knowing that the world needs this right now, but I need this right now. Like this is going to be therapeutic for me. I want to put good positive things out there and I just did it. And it wasn't easy. It was, I'm literally recording with a baby. And I was looking, all these other podcasters that I was following didn't have kids and sounded so professional. And I just had to tell myself, you know what? Like, that's not me, but maybe I'll speak to another woman whose life is chaotic right now and she has kids and it's never quiet. And I went with it. And oh my God, you guys, I've heard so many people over the years tell me how grateful they are that like they hear my kids pop in on podcast episodes or coaching calls. All of my coaching clients like freaking knew my kids because they were always like running, getting in my lap or whatever. And by showing that, I could have said this is unprofessional. People aren't going to like it. And that's true. I mean, there are people that don't like that and think it's unprofessional, but the right people found me and were like, "Oh my God, like I feel like you just gave me permission to move forward in my business right now while my kids are spitting up and my house is crazy." It gave them like the green light to go for it. And I'm so grateful I did. I've never once looked back and thought, "Man, I wish I would have waited until the kids were older." I am so glad I started when I did. So if you're thinking about starting something, like, trust me, you're always going to regret not getting started sooner. It's never the other way around. I can't think of one person I have worked with or talked to that wishes they would have started later. Everyone wishes they would have got moving sooner. And along the lines of this, by the way, I did all of the things that all of the marketers online were telling me to do. And there were so many things I did that were a waste of time and a waste of energy. Number one being build your audience on Instagram organically. It was like everyone was talking about organic growth on Instagram. And I fell for it and I did it. And guess what? I did grow. I grew a huge following and it equated to no money whatsoever. Like I could sell hardly any copies of my self-published book. My first course, I sold zero, zero. And I had like, I think 20,000 followers at the time. So social media growth does not equal income growth. And if that's like the one thing you get out of this, great. Like everyone tells you to spend time on social media, but no one's telling you the real things that businesses are doing to drive traffic and revenue. And working in the corporate world, like I look back at that and I'm like, oh my God, like how many big companies do you know where their CEO is on Instagram 24/7? Like none of them, because they know that's not important. They're spending their money elsewhere and they're spending their time and energy elsewhere. So that was something that I had to learn the long way. And it really kept me in limbo for a few years where I was constantly like, oh my gosh, I really hope I never have to go back to my corporate job. And it wasn't until I created my app that I was like, okay, this is it. Like, I never have to go back because it created such a stable, recurring income for me that I knew as long as I have this, I will be okay and I can move forward because new people find my app every day. It is consistent income every month. And so, I see people like, oh, I'm going to grow my social media following. I'm going to create my website. It's like if you took all that energy and you built an app and you built a podcast, you would be in such a better place a year from now than wasting all of this time on things that really don't build security in your business. So I like there were a lot of mistakes and it took me, years to kind of figure things out. Um, and it took, a lot of coffee, a lot of like, oh my gosh, I had, you know, two kids in 2 years. So like I had Amelia then when she was a year old. And I was about ready to pop with Aiden. I mean, I had started having contractions at 20 weeks with him. It was a horrible pregnancy. Um, Plus, I'm chasing around a toddler. Plus, I've got a homeschooler. And that's when I got my book deal, when I was 8 months pregnant. And so talk about like just the stress of that and like not being the perfect time, right? But again, I made a decision. And what I decided both for myself, for the universe, and for the publisher is like, look, I'm about to have a kid. Um, I can't go on a book tour. I can't go promote this. I can't do all of the things that most people can do um, because my kids come first. My family comes first. I just can't. I can't travel. I can't get on calls. I can't do all these things, but I can write a book and I can write a damn good book. And if you're on board with that, then great. And they were like, great, amazing. Absolutely. And they left me alone and they didn't require me to do all these crazy things that most people have to do when they start a book. Now, I could have said, this isn't the right time. I've got to wait. I'm about to have a baby. Like, it's just not going to work. And everyone in my life was like, what are you doing? Like, how are you going to do this? And I just said, because I've decided. I decided it was going to get done, so it's going to get done. And I didn't want to put it off because I didn't know that this opportunity would be around a few months from now, a year from now. And so I took a leap of faith. I declared it to the universe. I didn't give myself another option. And it got done. And that book turned into a bestseller. And so, another example of like, if I would have said, you know what, I'm going to wait until my son's born and I'm back on my feet, um, I would probably be sitting here right now with deep, deep regret that I didn't just take advantage of that opportunity while it was there. So, I just wanted to like share some of these stories because I know there's a lot of moms out there that are business owners or that want to be business owners. And we feel like we can't do both because we were raised that way. Like I was a kid growing up in the 90s where it really was like this big emphasis on like, equal pay and like women, in the workforce and like go be a boss babe and climb up the corporate ladder and shatter glass ceilings. And then when I got to the corporate world, I realized this is not like, what are we doing? Like they're all these companies talk about work-life balance. It doesn't exist. It's a fancy phrase they throw around, but it really doesn't exist. The guys that I worked with never dealt with the mom guilt that I dealt with every day, all day. They didn't have the burden of running to the school and picking up their kid when they're sick, or, having to take care of all these things with the kids. Their wives handled that. And it was just kind of like a harsh reality for me, because I kind of realized that the corporate world is set up in a way where you do have to make a sacrifice. It's like you have a career and you go to the top, or you have a family. And you can't really do both to the fullest capacity. And like, I feel like with a business, you can create your own reality, and rather than waiting for the entire world to catch on and for all these big companies to change, you can change everything right now, and you can create the freedom that you want with your own business. You can create something that gives you fulfillment, where you're fulfilling your purpose and doing something that you love and that you're proud of. And you can also be a very hands-on stay-at-home mom. And like, that's the whole point that I'm trying to make. And the reason that I decided to do this podcast in the first place was, my friend Julia Garcia reached out, and she's doing her NLP certification, and they had to find someone to like model off of, that's basically giving their subconscious evidence of a belief that they're holding. And so she was having a really hard time finding people who were successful in their business while also at home raising kids. Like, everyone had seemed to either be at the phase where they didn't have kids yet when they started their business, or they started their business after their kids were grown. And she was like, "You're the only one that I could find that did it all at the same time." Like, I was literally growing my family as I was growing my business. Um, and I think there's a lot of people out there that are looking for that. And I know I was looking for that. Like I said, the podcasters I followed, the other boss babe, like CEOs and stuff, none of them had kids when they started their business. And it was an excuse I gave myself a lot. Like, well, it's easy for them to say they don't have kids. They don't have a family that they have to support and kids that they have to take care of. So yeah, it's easy for them. And I really had to overcome that and just say, you know what? I can either keep giving that excuse, or I can do something about it, and I can manifest my own life. And that's where I kind of like came up with, I can create a life I don't need a vacation from. I can create a life where I have it all, because I know how to manifest, and I can manifest outside of these rules that we were given in our society. And that's what I did. And now I want to be an example for everyone out there that is struggling with that, because I know there's a lot of people struggling with that and making so many sacrifices, um either sacrificing having a family or sacrificing their career growth. And you can have both, you can do both, you can create both. And I'm not saying it's like the easiest thing in the world, right? You really have to commit to it. And like I said, it took like a lot of focus, it took a lot of mindset and manifesting. It took a lot of coffee. Of course, at the time, like, I didn't have Magic Mind. I don't even know if it existed then. Um and God, like, I think back to that, and it's like, what a big difference that would be. And I know I've talked about it a lot on this podcast, but like, Magic Mind, it's like basically a mental performance shot, and I take it every day now. And I want to say I've been taking it at least 6 months, but I want to say it's been like close to a year at this point. Um, and what it does is it helps you focus and get into a flow state. And that is essential. Like, if you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, you know that manifesting, getting into that creative flow, tapping into your intuition, like all of the things that you really need if you want to manifest anything with ease, whether it's a business or income or just anything with ease, is tapping into that right hemisphere of the brain. And I swear this helps you do it. I'm not going to pretend that I know how it works, but all I know is it has all of the different mushrooms, like the nootropics, the adaptogens, um, everything that you hear, like people drinking this like mud coffee and stuff like that. It has all of that stuff in it, plus a bunch of like vitamins and all kinds of like really good healthy ingredients. But it comes in a shot, and you just take the shot instead of drinking the mud water or taking like all these different supplements. You just take a shot. And so, anyhow, it's one of those things that you get the benefit like over time, like it builds in your system. And now that I've been taking it for, I want to say it's been close to a year, um, I feel like I get in the flow state like all the time. Like it's so easy for me to get tapped in and really just be on. And I think that that's a big reason why. And it's interesting because if I don't take it, like I take it every time I'm about to go into my, you know, podcast recording, or if I'm recording a video or something where I really need to be on my A game, I take a shot of it. And it's like my freaking rocket fuel, but without the jitters of like an energy shot. So it's just amazing. I wish I would have had it back then, but I don't. Um, I recommend everybody go get it. Like go get it. You don't have to stop drinking coffee, but like I take it with my coffee, and it's so much better for getting focus and clarity, and it lasts and you don't crash later in the day. Um, so anyhow, it's definitely my secret sauce. I wish I would have had it sooner. And if you guys want to try it out, I do have a discount code. So if you go to the Magic Mind website and you use code LOA Tribe 20, you can get up to 48% off if you're doing a subscription, which is what I do. Then you get it like every month. So I like literally take it every day. Or if you want to just try it out and do like a one-time order, you still get 20% off with code LOA Tribe 20. Um, and then something else, because I've had people ask me about this. If you go to like straight to my Magic Mind website, which is magicmind.com/LOA Tribe 20, the discount's automatically applied. So you don't have to use a code or anything. It's automatically going to be applied to your cart if you want to try it out. So I love this stuff. And yeah, for all of you moms out there that are like multitasking and it's feeling really overwhelming and you're having a hard time focusing, I would try it. At least try it, give it a full month, and see what it'll do for you, because it's been a game changer for me. So there's that. There's like scheduling my time, right? So thank God I have my mom. My mom lives in my neighborhood, which I know I'm like really fortunate with. But what I found is there's like a 2 hour window where you can really be super creative. And I think I heard this from Tim Ferriss in the 4 Hour Work Week, where it's like a 2 hour window and then it kind of starts to fade. And so I try to create my childcare around these 2 hour windows. So I'll have my mom come typically between 10 and 12, because by 10 o'clock, I've gone through my morning routine. I'm feeling so high vibe, so on it, so like energized and ready to go. And that'll last me till around lunchtime. And so between 10 and 12, when she's here, that is when I sit down and do things that I can't get done when the kids are around. So that would be like right now, like recording this podcast, recording a video for a course, or a meditation or a subliminal, something like that. And then all the other things that do not require a quiet house, like editing the podcast, uploading it, doing stuff on Canva or within the app, I'll do that like later throughout the day, like while my kids are playing. But the stuff where I need a quiet house, I need to focus, I really try to schedule that within a 2 hour time period when I know I'm going to be feeling my best. The afternoons, I'm not. Like I just 10 to 12, I know I'm going to be on it. So that's when I have my mom come. So it's like really just scheduling your business around your life and not the other way around. And you can do that. Like you can do that. You just have to make that decision that you're going to do that. You just have to put up these boundaries. Like when people want to come on the podcast and do an interview, I'm like, all right, during these hours, I have childcare. So if you can come on during these hours, wonderful. And, every once in a while, there's going to be like an amazing guest that can't, and I can be flexible. But for the most part, I really try to stick to that. Because if you don't, things get out of hand really quickly and you go right back to feeling like, how am I going to do this? I am overwhelmed and I don't know how I'm going to keep going. So, anyhow, that's just kind of like a little bit of behind the scenes of being a stay-at-home mom and running a business. And the other thing I want to point out is that when you're in it, like I am, it feels like it's never going to end. Like it feels like you're going to be changing diapers forever and not having like a quiet moment forever. But it really does go by so quickly. And I know that I knew that with my younger two because I already went through it with my oldest. And so that was another reason why I was like, you know what? I don't want to be at work 8 hours a day. I want to soak up this time because it's going to go by so quickly. And then on the days when I'm feeling like just overwhelmed, like I'm like, man, I've got to record podcasts. I got to do all these things. And I can't because the kids are sick. And it's just like, how am I going to do this? I just remind myself of that. Like, this is a small moment in time. And before I know it, they're going to be off to school, which, by the way, I went to take Amelia to go like register for VPK, and Aiden was with, and the teacher there was like, oh, do you want to put him in preschool too? Because we have openings. And like, it didn't even cross my mind. And he was all about it. He got so excited and he's like, I want to go to school. I love it here. And he was super, super like ready. Like he wanted to start right then and there. And I thought, oh my gosh, like, okay. So if I put him in there, then Monday through Friday, I'm going to have like a solid 3 hours to myself. And so just knowing like it felt like it was so far away. And now I'm at that point where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have time where I could just sit down and not have childcare, like not have my mom come and I can just work on my business. Monday through Friday is insane. And it happened so quickly, like I wasn't even expecting. I was expecting to have Aiden home with me still, but now he's going to go to school. And then next it's going to be school, kindergarten, school all day. So just hang in there if you're in the thick of it and know it goes by so quickly, but you can do your business and your podcast and your app or your online course or whatever it is you want to do. You can do it. You can do it while you're pregnant. You could do it while you're breastfeeding. You could do it while you have, a baby in your arms and a little one crawling around on the ground and another one homeschooling. And I'm proof of that. But you're not going to be able to do it if you don't make that decision. If you are wavering and you're like, I'm going to try it out. And if it doesn't work out, then I'll go back to my job. Well, then guess what? You're giving your subconscious an excuse for it to not like work out. But if you just tell yourself, I want this enough that I'm going to do whatever it takes, no matter what, everything will work out. Our mind is so powerful. And there's just far too many people going like half assed into their business. And don't do that. Like if you just tell yourself, I'm going all in, but I'm going to do things my way. And I don't care what, the boss babe CEOs of the world say, I'm going to make it work for me. I am going to make it work for my schedule. I'm not going to work 24/7 in my business. I'm going to work 2 hours a day and be super intentional and focused in those 2 hours. And that's how I'm going to do it until my kids are older. That's what I did. And it's possible. It is possible. So I just want to like reinforce that if you're out there listening and you're like, I wish I could start a business now, but I'm about to have a baby, or like, I'm having a baby and I don't want to go back to my job. I want to build a business so I can be from home. You can do it right now. Like you can literally start right now. So, my gosh, like I hope I made that point crystal clear. And I know I've talked about it on the podcast before, but it really wasn't until Julia reached out to me that it really dawned on me that there aren't a lot of people talking about this. And the entrepreneurs that are moms, I feel like maybe it's more hidden. You know what I mean? It's like because it's not considered normal or professional, we don't see that side of it. We don't see the crazy house in the background and the loud kids and the messiness of it. And it's I want to be that person that's showing you like, hey, things are far from perfect and it's hard, but at the same time, it's what I want. Like I want to be here and a part of all of these moments that my kids are having because I missed all of that with my oldest. I didn't have a choice. I was working all the time. And knowing that and knowing how quickly it went by, like it made it my number one priority with my kids. We're like, no, I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to be home with them. Like I'm going to be home. I'm going to be here for those moments. And it's just a small blip in time. I will get my freedom back, but I'm going to do it. And you know what? I'm feeling like I want to start a business and I want to start a podcast. And I just did it. Like I didn't allow myself any excuses. I just did it. And what's the worst that happens? What's the worst that happens? You do it and then it doesn't work out. You fail. Okay. Well, then try again, try something else, keep going. Like it's not, we make the worst case scenario out to be this big, horrific thing when really it's not that bad. And another like big aha moment I had was that my worst case scenario would be going back to my day job. Like in my mind, that was the worst case scenario because I was literally going to the ER with panic attacks. It was so bad. And once I realized that, I was like, oh my God, it's not like trying to start a business and failing that's bad. The worst case is going back to my crappy day job. And if that's the worst case scenario, couldn't I, like, whenever I wanted to, go find another crappy day job? Yeah, absolutely. So why not try and manifest my dreams first? And then if it doesn't work out, I can always go find another crappy day job. And that helped my mindset so much. And once I changed my worst case scenario from being failing in my business to being stuck in a 9 to 5 job, it helped make everything easier in my business. Like no failure felt insurmountable. It felt like, yeah, there were mistakes and there were things that didn't work out. There were courses that flopped. There were, just little situations and mistakes that really sucked, but nothing was as bad as like the worst of my 9 to 5 job. And so it made it so much easier to deal with that stuff and stick with it and keep going. So, anyhow, as a result of all of this, I created a free masterclass. It's free right now. It's probably going to become paid at some point or like part of a program. But if you want it for free, right now, I'll link it in the show notes. It's also on my website, theLawOfAttractionTribe.com. And it's called the 6 Figure Stay at Home Mom. And the reason I created it was because, like I said, when I was in my day job and I knew I wanted to be home raising my kids, I couldn't just leave. Like I didn't have a backup, for paying my mortgage and my bills. I couldn't just walk away from a 6 figure salary. I had to make that up. And so this masterclass is going over that beginning part of my business where it took me a while to figure it out and to understand like what to do and what not to do in order to generate enough revenue to not go back to my job, which for me, that was 6 figures. I had to make 6 figures or I was going back to my day job. That's what I teach in this masterclass. I go over the 4 things that virtually everyone's doing that's a waste of time and a waste of energy. And it's probably making you feel like I just suck and my business sucks and it's never going to work out because I'm working so hard and I'm not getting any traction. No, it's not that at all. You're just focusing on the wrong things. So there's 4 things to avoid. And then I tell you instead, use your time and energy and focus on these 4 things, and you will hit your 6 figures. So it's really just shifting a handful of things, and it makes all the difference in the world. And so I just want other people to see that So they don't spend, all this time on things that don't matter and then end up giving up before they hit their first six figures. So again, it's free now. Just go to the lawofattractiontribe.com. It's under my free resources section. I'll link it in the show notes, and I hope you like it. I hope it helps like just give you that momentum, and just helps you like focus and not worry about all the fluffy crap that's really not important in a business. And again, I'm just going to leave you with this. You can be a stay-at-home mom, a hands-on mom, a very involved parent, and have a life of freedom and abundance. Have a business that is thriving. You can have both. You don't have to sacrifice one for the other. I know that corporate America makes us think that we do, but we don't. You can create your own business and your own income, and you can do things your way. So I hope that gets through to some people and it gives you that hope and that motivation that you need to build it, because my God, if I can do it, you can too. There is nothing special about me whatsoever. And if I can do it, like you can absolutely, you got this. So there's your motivation for all the moms out there, or soon to be moms or dads, or, you know, for parents. Maybe you're a dog mom or a cat mom, whatever. Like it doesn't have to be just about like someone that is in the middle of parenting right now. It's just that mindset of not having to sacrifice what's important to you and what you value just to have a decent income. And that's really like the whole point of it, the whole message around creating a business that gives you freedom. So I hope that that helps. Thanks for everyone that's listening to the podcast, everyone that's been here from the beginning and still listening. Um, I just like you have no idea how grateful I am. This is my favorite aspect of the business. I absolutely love it. I will probably be podcasting the rest of my life because I truly enjoy it. And I'm so grateful every time you guys reach out to me on Instagram and just say like, "Hey, the message resonated," or "I'm listening." Like it is so helpful for my mindset knowing like, okay, someone out there it helped and it's resonating, and it just gives me that push to keep going. So, thank you guys so much for being here. And if you have any questions about anything at all, just message me on Instagram at Law of Attraction Tribe, and I try to respond to everyone. So that's the best place to get a hold of me. And I'll see you back here next week.